Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of Colivers Club. Here I'm today with Suze. How are you doing, Suze?
I am very well, César. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Me too, absolutely. We actually met yesterday because today and this week we've been at Nomad Base in Tarifa.
Yes.
And you had an amazing workshop talk. Can you tell us about your talk?
Yeah, so my talk was all about trauma, but not specifically trauma through an accident or through an event, but developmental trauma, which forms basically from conception all the way through 27, but usually through conception until 7, and it doesn't feel like something weird happened, although it can, but very often it feels like this is not what happened to me, this is who I am. So it defines a lot of our responses to the world and how we respond to each other and how we define ourselves, how we identify with ourselves.
Yeah, it was a lovely talk. I should say workshop because there were some exercises.
Yes.
And I was also very taken away by your storytelling abilities and your speaking abilities. And that's also something that you do apart from being a trauma therapy coach and
Yes.
a lot of things, is that you also are a speaking coach.
Yes.
How you do so many things? What's your secret?
Well, I am interested in almost everything. I couldn't choose between English literature, astronomy, and shipbuilding when I went to university, so I just did all of it because I want to know everything. But actually, I don't do that many things. I have a lot of different angles to do only one thing. And that one thing is to help people show up in this world from who they're meant to be instead of through all the deformations of who we learned to be. So instead of fighting life, stepping into life with a deep sense of certainty and trust in who you are. And I do that with speakers, I do that with entrepreneurs, with speakers, how to share your story on stage in a way that that all of your emotions are fine for you and nothing needs to happen so that everything can happen. I do that on stage. I help speakers with that. I help entrepreneurs trust themselves in their business, and I help doctors and therapists to work on a very much deeper level in the therapy around trauma.
Wow, that's amazing. You also mentioned shipbuilding.
Yes.
And I know that sailing has been a big part of your life. I don't know if that can be considered a digital nomad or not, sailing around the world, but I see some parallelisms.
When I was sailing, there was not a lot of digital nomading on boats because we had
there was no Wi-Fi, no?
I'm 50, so when I was, I sailed 4 to 5 months a year. So I was nomading, but there was no digital at that point. So if you got lost at sea, there was a radio signal and only along coastlines, and then we were listening to the radio for all the ships that got lost or people who got lost. Every single evening you would listen to the radio, this soothing voice would share what was going on in the world. And that's if we went out to cross the ocean, nobody would know where you were for 3 weeks. That's a world that digital nomads probably are not very familiar with, but nobody knew where we were. And that to me was a space where I felt extremely safe in because I was on a ship, very simple, small incubator, a cocoon almost, where nobody would judge me, and maybe they did, but it would be totally fine to judge each other because you're all stuck on that same boat. So it was a world where I could just be me and trust my abilities and trust who I was and trust that I would be accepted somehow. And it was small enough to not have to deal with all the big things in the world, and nobody could reach me, nobody knew where I was, and that was actually really nice. So it was nomading, but not digital.
And during these months that you were sailing, can you tell us a bit about your adventures in the boat, straight in the sea? Like, how was it?
Well, what's really so I sailed on big ships, on tall ships, so 3-mast sailing ships, and I sailed on smaller sailing boats and all different kinds. And for me, the most important thing about those journeys is that you leave shore. So you have different types of sailing, right? You have day trips and you have ocean trips. And what I like most is the ship has a certain rhythm. And that rhythm creates a safety. So certain things need to be done at certain times. And for the rest, it is very unpredictable because you can't predict the weather. Well, you can, but you really can't. And you don't know what's going to happen. So you prepare to step into the unknown. And you prepare to figure it out on the way. Because ultimately you really don't know what's going to happen, who's going to get seasick, what the ship, there's no way to prepare for everything. It's almost like life, right? It's a miniature version of the world. And what I love about sailing is the simplicity of 4 hours on watch, 8 hours off watch, 4 hours on watch, 8 hours off watch. You have certain moments in the day where you have certain tasks. And everybody does the same things. Everybody needs to clean the toilet at a certain point. Everybody needs to do certain things. So it's very much, well, actually like living in a van, probably. There's certain things, you do them, and you do, and this is what I love most, you take care of the environment that is supporting you together. So you surrender to what the ship is requiring from you. And that makes life easy and simple and predictable. And I grew up in a very unpredictable surrounding. So that simple rhythm of the ship gave me what I missed at home. A lot of predictability, a lot of knowing what's going to be what, knowing how people will treat me, knowing if I just do what is required of me to do, that I will be loved and accepted. And what I absolutely love, and this is probably the same in digital nomading today, is that when you step on board of a ship, people understand who you are. So there are very different people on board of ships, like nomads are very different people. So it's nice to meet all these varieties, but there's something similar about them, and we understand each other. It's almost like we speak the same language. So what you do is you step on board of a ship, or you step into a harbor, and you're like, oh, I'm on that ship. Oh, then I know who you are, and I know where you are. And I recognize that a lot in this week. People are like, oh, I'm going to Bansko, oh, I'm going to Tarifa. And then you know what they're talking about, it's familiar, and
part of the tribe, no?
Part of a tribe. And even though you might be completely different than I am, there is a common language that we all have.
Absolutely, and I think I cannot stop drawing parallelisms with, for example, colivings, no? Like taking care of the house, living together.
Same thing.
It's not as extreme as sailing around the world for 4-5 months straight, but I think, having a common vessel where everyone takes care and takes part of it, makes the connection deeper, right? It's
exactly the same thing as co-living, because 50 people on 50 meters, that is co-living to the max, right? And what I always loved on board of a ship is that every time when you're with a new crew, you step on board, you're with 50 people, and immediately, all of us have this, right? Certain people you like better than others, and you have connections and you have bonds. These change over time. So during those, maybe some people I would feel like, oh, I don't like you.
But you throw them overboard, no?
Exactly, that's what you do. That's how you clear it out. Yeah. So at a certain point, because it's a small space and because everybody needs to take care of the ship because the ship is carrying us, everybody does have a level of responsibility. And I hope that's the same in co-living. But in co-living, what I found in co-living, and I have lived in co-living projects, is that it's easier to abandon the ship a little bit because the world is closer. And on board of a ship, there is no world to go to. So you take care of each other and you take care of the ship, and you might not like each other, that's fine. We don't need to like each other as long as we take care of the ship.
Yeah.
And then as long as we take care of the ship and we don't have the idea that we need to become friends, but we do what the ship is requiring us to do. So if I ask you to do something, it's not because I need you to do it, it's because the ship is requiring that. So there's a higher order, higher God, I would say, right? That is demanding this from all of us. And if we listen to that, then we can easily get to a place of, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it. And you don't have to like me, we just have to fix this thing together. And that sense of no judgment actually leads to a place where you accept yourself and your own quirks more, and you also accept other people and their quirks more, and you need to figure it out and sort it out together. This is one of the places where I learned most about trauma, actually, where I learned most about unconditional love and about
acceptance as well, right? Yeah, and you need to let go of things. There's no other option.
Exactly, there's no other option. And I think if in co-living people could see it as a ship that is requiring us to do things and there is no option to go off, this is just a commitment, then it would actually be easier for everyone. This is how my husband and I approached our marriage.
Okay, can you tell us about it?
Marriage is co-living also, right? Yeah, so we met when I was 8 months pregnant. And then we had another baby. So in 2 years, we had 2 babies and we moved across the country, and he left his job and I changed everything. So recipe for disaster. And then we said, okay, but let's close the door and say, for the next year, this is the ship. And then we looked at what is this ship requiring from each of us. And a year from now, we'll be in a harbor. We can get off the ship. So there is a limit of time, but during that limit of time, we're going to face each and everything that we trigger in each other, old wounds, stuff from the past, because that happens between people, right?
Of course.
On board of a ship, and there's no place like co-living to trigger each other, because it all sounds so beautiful. And then it turns out that everybody had their own dream.
Yeah, of course. There's mismatches and projections.
Yeah.
I also feel like when people are open to traveling, they're in this path of self-discovery and trying to get past their wounds, perhaps, or at least that's the feeling that I get from people that are not necessarily escaping, but going through an internal voyage.
And very often, and maybe not for everyone, but very often I see people trying to find the place where they won't feel the wound anymore.
Yeah. Well, if everyone is wounded, then you're not alone.
Exactly. Now the question is, can you be with your wounds and love them? And that's a very different thing, because I see a lot of people trying to fix their wounds or trying to get away from them.
Fix others.
Fix others? Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
And so after sailing and having this super independent life, motherhood knocked on your door and you needed to change everything, right? So you sit together with your husband, you came up with a plan of, okay, this is the vessel that we need to take care of. What other changes came into your life through motherhood?
So motherhood was so when I was 23, I was suicidal. And when I was 25, I decided, okay, if I am apparently not brave enough to kill myself, then I need to choose to live. Because I can't go on like this. It's either live or die, and I need to commit to one. So I committed to life, and that was a moment I can still remember. I was on board of a ship. I was standing on the front deck. In the middle of the night, you can see the entire Milky Way up there, and I was all alone standing on watch. And I felt the ocean underneath, and I felt the ship, and I was so in connection with what I call God. And I felt like I just want to go home. And I thought, if I step overboard now, my body will cool down and I won't even notice that I'm drowning. And I can just dissolve back into home. And that was not a painful thing. It felt like a deep longing. It felt like I want to go home. The reason I couldn't was because I knew the captain, and he was a dear friend of mine, would have to report to my parents that he didn't know what happened. And I couldn't do that. So I said, okay, if I can't go home, I need to find home in life. So at 25, I decided I'm going to commit to this life, even if it's the last thing I do. And I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say yes. And I let you do an exercise yesterday, right? I didn't share this story. You could have shared this story, but it was me saying yes to life without knowing what that required of me. And the first thing I did was say yes to saying, okay, I don't need to figure out the next 80 years. I can figure out today. Just today. Just if I can figure out today, that's fine. Now, the period after that, for the first 5 years, I lived week by week. And I thought, you know what, if I can figure out this week, I'll be fine. And if I don't know, I'll just go sailing. Now, when I got pregnant, that was unexpected in the sense that I didn't know the guy for a long time. I thought I was infertile. So me getting pregnant was like, what? And I was absolutely loving it. I wanted children, but I didn't plan for it because I thought I couldn't have them. So then I got pregnant, and now two things changed, because stepping out of life was impossible and sailing got impossible. So the two things that made me feel at home, it was almost like God was telling me, okay, you wanted to commit to life, right?
Here you go.
Stop escaping. No more sea, no more death. This is it. This is life. You wanted this. You asked for it. And then I got pregnant and I loved it, but I couldn't. So the things I used to call self-care, I couldn't do anymore. And it wasn't self-care in hindsight. In hindsight, it was me escaping from life, finding a pause. And if I look back at it, and it didn't feel like this, but if I look back at it, I was holding my breath, fighting my way through people, and then breathing out at sea. Kind of like, okay, I survived, I will relax, that's all good. And then I went back fighting or scared or. So when I had Benjamin, which is my oldest son, he was here.
Talk,
yes. I realized that I needed to figure out how to feel safe, how to feel certain. All my childhood trauma appeared then. I thought I had a perfect childhood. And then I realized that it wasn't perfect at all by any standards. And I realized that I felt completely unsafe in life. So I had to really reconnect with myself, finish all the things that my parents started and couldn't finish for me, like creating a healthy functioning nervous system. And the first thing that happened was that I had a husband and 2 children. And now I felt like I need to take care of them. I need to take care of them. I need to make them feel safe, right? Fixing other people. Well, I was fixing it for my little family. And I thought, again, that I was creating safety. And what I didn't understand at that point was that safety is not something we need to create. It's something that we can feel inside of us. And if we feel safe inside, then we can have an answer to anything in the world. Took me 20 years to get there. Not saying it needs to take 20 years, but...
That's the average in years. Okay.
Yes.
How do we know if we are escaping?
Good question. So I didn't know. I thought I was living a very sensible life. I thought it was freedom. I thought it was the ultimate freedom. I thought I had choice. I thought I was using choice. And maybe to a certain degree I was, but not really, because I couldn't choose to stop sailing. And I couldn't choose to not do it. So what I came to think of today in my life is that choice is very different. Choice is not me choosing to sail or me choosing not to sail. Choice is only a free choice. It's only freedom if we can choose both options. And I couldn't choose both options at that time, in hindsight. I couldn't choose to not go to sea 4 to 5 months. And I have this conversation a lot, especially with entrepreneurs and with nomads who say, yeah, but I'm choosing to travel the world. Okay, but could you choose not to?
A lot of them would say no.
And if they can choose not to, that's fine. You don't need to be anywhere else where you're not. It's just, okay, so if I cannot choose not to, then it's not really a choice. To a certain degree, it's a need, and it could be a million things underneath there. But it's not true freedom if you can't choose to do the opposite.
How do you go about your therapy sessions with your clients?
So in my therapy sessions, I basically what I do is I connect with them from a place of I connect with your divine part. And I make sure that I am so comfortable and so connected to myself that I can deal with whatever is coming up in me so that you don't have to. So if I feel uncertain, I deal with it. I don't tell you I can deal with it and you don't have to. I don't use those words. I do it so that your system will feel that you don't have to take care of me, and your system feels something that it might never have felt before, because I am really taking care of myself. So if I need a break or something happens or whatever, I will do whatever it takes to deal with me. I'm not holding space for the other person, I'm holding space for me and for whatever shows up in me. And then I am, so nothing needs to happen. I have no intention. I don't know what your life needs to look like. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your soul came to do in this planet. So who am I to tell you what you need? I don't have any intention. I don't have the intention for anybody to heal. I don't have the intention for anything to happen. The only intention I have is to be completely curious to what's going on for you, what that looks like, and to understand what's happening. And then maybe something can happen, and maybe it won't, because it's not for me to decide. And in that space, everything can show up. And in that space, two things happen. One is that your nervous system will finally, maybe for the first time, feel what it is like to connect to a healthy nervous system. Your nervous system will start to pick up and start to regenerate. Not because it has to, but because it does. Because if we have two vessels of water, and one is level here, one is level here, it will start to settle. Now, my level will stay here, so I won't balance below. So what happens is that your nervous system will start to regenerate with mine. But I'm not making anything happen. That's just a physical law. That's what happens. So that's one. And the other thing is that in a session, people for the first time really get in touch with what their soul desires instead of what their mind thinks they want. And that's a very different thing. And that sense of freedom of, but what is it that I really want in this life is a very different thing. We have this divine voice that is speaking to us. But the world is so noisy and our survival patterns are so noisy that it's very hard to listen to that in the whole hectic, chaotic thing of especially in things like co-living. Yeah, but he's saying that, and this is happening here, and that's happening here. And if he says that, then he's making me feel this. I'm sorry if I'm saying he too much. Maybe it's she as well, right?
Yeah,
she is doing this, and then if she says that, then I feel that. And we're all caught up in fixing all the little things, hoping that will create safety. And what happens in sessions is that somebody starts to reconnect with an internal sense of safety. I use ships a lot in my session, in the way that I build an internal vessel inside of you that will help you feel safe in the journey in life. So I create internal ships in people.
So from shipbuilding to shipbuilding in some other way?
I call myself a shipbuilder for your soul.
Oh, okay. That's a great tagline. You should put it on LinkedIn.
It already is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yes.
You mentioned that your level always stays up while taking care of others. How do you take care of yourself, and how can you do it on the go?
So for me, this is a weird term. A lot of people have heard of co-regulation. Have you heard of that term? Okay, so co-regulation is what happens when we step into a room, and everybody can relate to this. If you step into a room with angry people, what happens in your nervous system?
You're tense.
You get tense. So your nervous system responds to the other people. Now, if you step into a room with peaceful people, what happens?
You relax.
You relax. Your nervous system is always tuning into other people. That is not something a therapist does. It is something that happens. When two people enter a room, co-regulation happens. Now, as a good therapist, we need to not try to use it. We need to know that our nervous systems will start to co-regulate, so that if my nervous system starts to co-regulate with yours, then who is helping who here?
Okay.
So what I do is something that might be a very weird term, but I co-regulate with God.
Okay.
And I don't know how to explain it in any different way. Before a session, but not just before a session, in life, I've trained myself to be connected to God, and whatever God means, right? Not everybody believes in God. Some people were hurt by the church or religion, but I use a higher spiritual dimension that I am in connection with so deeply that I am always in tune to that force inside of me. And I don't just do that in a session, I do that in life. I practice that a lot, I journal a lot. I live in the middle of nature. I have dear friends who can support me. I have a family and a husband who can hold me when I need it. I have my own therapist, of course. So that's how I take care of me.
You also mentioned that you do meditation and Tai Chi?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
How do you meditate?
So by now, I have a lot of different meditation practices. Today, I would say my life is one big meditation, because I used to think meditation is on a meditation pillow, and I still do that a lot. I will sit and I will so for me, that kind of meditation is the ultimate holiday, because nothing needs to happen. I don't need to relax. I don't need to make anything happen. It's just me sitting with everything that is happening outside, inside. So that's one kind of meditation. But I also have a very mindful way of living, of being present in the thing that I am doing, or in the emotion that's happening. And that is a kind of a meditation that is moving through life in a very mindful way, without needing it to be what I call bullshit mindfulness of, oh, I'm just so peaceful, I'm just so peaceful. No, if I'm angry, I'm freaking angry.
Yeah.
So then that is the meditation. It is, can I fully be in this emotion with everything that's happening?
Not trying to fix it,
not trying to
change it, just feeling it.
Exactly.
Accept it. Okay.
And I pray, so every morning, but I pray in a very weird way to certain people, because I write letters to God every morning. And that is a way of praying, that is really me sharing all my frustrations and all my questions and all my gratitude and all the things that are happening for me, all the questions I have, and God always writes back. I don't care if it's God or my higher self or some part of my mind, it works.
Yeah, if you give the space for this spirituality to develop,
exactly.
Then there you go. Talking about the future, you've mentioned to me that one of your dreams is to build a kind of retreat in a castle.
Yes.
What do you envision in this future?
So my big vision for my life is to have a castle in the middle of nature, where people fly in and out, and they already do that. So right now I have a farmhouse, and it's very close to the dream, but there are certain parts missing. So my big dream is a castle where people fly in and out to nourish again in the safe space of where they can fully be who they are, rewire themselves, reconnect to God, to their true self, so that they can fly out back into the world and really spread of who they are. Because I don't believe that there is one person who's going to lead us into freedom. I believe that we need people with healthy functioning nervous systems, and we need to see them, and when we see them, something happens inside of us. So I am creating what I call an army of divine warriors, where people's nervous system starts to function so well that they become a safe space for the rest of the world as well. And they fly in and out to my castle for retreats, for their own retreats, to really expand and unfold in a bigger way and bring that into the world.
Wow, lovely. This castle idea reminded me totally of Chateau Coliving that I shared with you.
Yes.
Perhaps there could be a collaboration.
I can totally see that, yes.
In the future.
Yes.
So, Katia, if you see this,
yes.
contact Suze.
I would very much like that.
Because I feel like in the co-living sphere there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of healthy nervous systems actually. Even right now we are in a co-living that La Cocotera here in Tarifa, who has given us this space to have this conversation. And to me, going to these events makes me even more marvel more about the idea of digital nomads, and being in these kind of events makes me feel like everything is about sharing, everything is about connection.
Yes.
And it's something that whenever I go back to my home base, or whenever I remember going back to my old job or everything, that then suddenly I feel like super disconnected, and it's like and that's why I chose, or I think I chose this life.
I can imagine.
I need to think about that. So I want to keep feeling this connection.
Well, the big question is, how dependent is the connection on the community? Or can you feel connected to life? Can you feel connected because you're here? Can you feel connected to yourself?
I think I do, and I think that started to develop more and more when I did meditation, and that's something that creating space for myself allows for me to connect.
Yes.
And I also wanted to ask you about what is it you do with speakers as a speaking coach?
So as a speaking coach, what I do is I help speakers not just share their story or share their content. So a lot of speakers are trying to drive their message across to the audience. That's great, and it's important. But if we want to really get our message across, we can't just tell it or share it, we need to become it. And we need to not just share a story with the emotions, because that is certainly a part of it. We need to be the emotion while we're sharing it. But we need to fully allow ourselves to be the story that we're sharing in a way that we are so comfortable with every aspect of ourselves that we don't need the audience to respond in a certain way. Any speaker will know that one crazy person can upset your entire talk, or you're dependent on if the audience will follow you or not. But if they don't need to, then they won't start to want to. So it's the same as I just shared about in therapy sessions. If you are just completely comfortable with who you are, and everything can happen in the audience, because whether that scares you or not, you can take care of that, then the audience will go a lot deeper, and then your story will actually come across. I believe that if speakers are able to really not just connect with the audience, but make the audience connect to themselves, that people will never forget that talk. I have people who've been following me for 7 years, or who've been coming up to me saying, I saw you speak there for 5 minutes, and they can still remember that. That's not because I'm so special, that's because I made them feel so special. And if we can trigger an emotion in the other person that makes them feel better about who they are, then we're creating change. And also, they will come up to you because they will want to know more of you. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're here, right?
Part of it.
Yes. Yeah, and so it will also, if you're speaking hoping to sell, that's the way. Of course, you can also sometimes sell from the stage, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that can be tiring as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you see that the objective is something material, no?
Exactly.
And you lose interest.
Can you invite? Can you share to serve? And if you share to serve, people will want to be served.
And then they'll want to pay you, right?
Exactly.
That's something that you mentioned in the talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, because people want to do something back. We always do. Well, and a lot of people think nobody wants to pay for that. Well, if they don't want to pay for it, then maybe they didn't want it in the first place. But if you do something for me that I truly want, of course I will want to do something back. Because otherwise, there is a kind of debt between us. Then there's unfinished business, and that feels yucky.
And it takes away your energy, right?
Yes.
You feel like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. During your workshop yesterday here at Nomad Base, a big part of it was sharing your story about how you lost everything.
Yes.
Not only one, not only twice, but 3 times.
Yes. Some people need to learn a lesson 3 times.
What can you tell us about your learnings during these periods of your life?
So, first of all, I didn't value myself very much. You don't become suicidal because you love yourself, right? And I didn't value myself very much, and I didn't feel like I belonged in the world, and I didn't care too much about myself. So I was taking care of other people, hoping that if I took really good care of them, that then they would love me. That's not love, that's not giving, that is a kind of me trying to get love by loving you, hoping that if I can take care of you really well, then maybe you will kind of tolerate me. That is pretty much, I either did not connect, or I connected from a place of, okay, you know what, I'll make everything happen. I was very controlling in a sense that kind of feels nice, but it kind of doesn't. I'm not sure if you can relate to that. It wasn't nice for the people around me either. So at a certain point, if people tried to, and I was terrified of people. So if somebody would love me, I was like, yeah, I wanted love, but if they would actually love me, I would be terrified. So I would close all doors. I moved 14 times in my life because every time people would actually start to love me, even though I thought I wanted it, I got so scared that I just ran away and I closed all doors. Now, at a certain point, what happens then is that you don't take care of yourself in the right manner, and you actually reject people. Now, if you reject people, you reject a lot more than just people. You also reject money, you reject love, you reject opportunities, because that's the lens I was looking through. So I was doing all right, but then at a certain point, I would sabotage everything in a weird way. And the interesting thing is that the first time that happened, I was divorcing from my first husband, and we didn't have kids together. So it was, and we were really close friends, but we shouldn't have been married. So I was divorcing. I walked away from that home. I lost all my stuff. And then I got a call from the person who gave me all my work. And as of that call, I could never call him again, and he had private things. His wife was jealous, and he could not talk to me anymore. So overnight, I lost all my business, I lost everything, and all I had was one bicycle. That was all. Well, that was not everything, because one bicycle is not losing everything, but I had a bicycle. So I started to cycle thinking, okay, so how do I live? I don't understand life. So I was completely feeling terrified of how does anybody understand anything in this world? And I didn't value myself at all. And I just started cycling and cycling and cycling. And the one thing that happened on that first time, and actually happened in the second and third time as well, was that I realized I don't need anything. I don't need proof. I don't need stuff. All I need is just me following that God voice inside of me. And if I can be comfortable with just following that step, it's actually fine to lose everything. What that gave me was the biggest insight, and I could not have learned it in any other way, that ultimately, if I follow that God force, everything that I need will come back to me. Everything I need, always. That gave me the courage to do really weird things, like sell my home and move to the countryside in the middle of COVID when my entire business got killed. And just think, you know what, I don't need to have all the answers, and I don't need to have all this external certainty, because I don't know what's going to come next anyway. So it gave me a lot of courage to step back into life all the time. Is this a helpful answer?
It is very... Wow, thank you so much. Where can we find you to this camera?
Yes.
Does know your socials or your website?
So my name is Suze McLean-Pont, which is a very complicated name, but my website is SuzeMcLean-Pont.com. My LinkedIn is Suze McLean-Pont. My Instagram is @SuzeMcLean-Pont. So that's where you can find me, and I'm pretty sure that César will spell it underneath this somewhere in a show note.
We'll
Yes.
put in the links.
Yes.
Well, thanks again to Melon for sponsoring this podcast. And yeah, it's been a pleasure sitting here talking to you.
Yes.
I have a lot of lessons, a lot of reflection to do. So thank you for that. And yeah, this has been another episode of Colivers Club. Thank you so much, Suze.
Thank you so much, César.
Bye.
Bye.